Question: do you believe in God, and why or why not?
I don't. I just don't see any scientific evidence for it.
I believe in, I guess, a universal sort of thing. I don't know if it's God necessarily. There's always been like this negative connotation to like religion itself, in my opinion.
I'm an atheist, kind of into the science stuff, I guess.
I don't know if there's a God. There's no evidence for or against, so I can't rule it out.
I believe in something. I don't know if it's God, really.
Or whatever you think you want will come to you, send out the right vibrations. So yeah, that's what I live my life based on.
I don't believe in a personal God. I also don't believe in an omni-God. And I don't believe in the other gods.
How do those beliefs about spirituality impact your college experience or just your life currently?
It's not like a critical factor in determining my outlook on life.
I mean, it doesn't seem to influence my life that much.
I'd say very little.
Sometimes I will go to some religious group and we will talk something about God. Well, that's it.
It hasn't really been a factor. It's been a very, I don't know, secular experience so far.
This question is, who would you say that Jesus is?
In my opinion, Jesus is just kind of like a belief and an idea.
A very good person that's led a lot of people to do good things. I personally just don't believe he's a divine person.
There's a lot of belief that he was true man, true God. I mean, there's so much to believe in.
I'm not really exactly sure. I grew up as a Christian, but he's like someone that people look up to, I guess.
He's probably a very convincing person very long ago.
God can be divided into 3 parts, and Jesus is one of them.
I don't know. I've never really studied the Bible.
I would say maybe 5.
5. Like a 6 or a 7. Like I'm kind of like okay doing my own thing.
Probably a 7.5.
Probably an 8. I mean, I pray every night, and so I feel like I have a good personal relationship.
Oh, I'd say 10 for sure. I feel like that's very important.
If a person in God existed, so I definitely would want to know that person. It's 10. It would be a priority.
He does exist. If there is a God, I would definitely want to know him.
10. If he did exist, I would want to personally know him, and I would want to have a conversation.
10 for sure, yeah. If he did exist, that'd be awesome.
I mean, if God exists, definitely a 10.
Hi friends, Bacho Borjadze here, and I'm here to give you a little bit of an update on the ministry with Cru here at Ohio State and where we're headed. As I think about where we're finding ourselves, the words of Karl Marx come to mind, who said that the philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways. The point, however, is to change it. And these are the words that were engraved on his tombstone. He understood the point of us being in the world is to transform it. As followers of Jesus, we take that understanding pretty seriously. We know that God has entrusted us with a mission encapsulated in Matthew 28, to take the gospel to the ends of the earth. And for us at Ohio State, if you've been around the movement for a while now, we've been talking about this whole idea of the Schottenstein dream. And the Schottenstein dream is just a little snapshot of the kind of a transformation we're trusting for God to produce at Ohio State. That when the gospel penetrates every nook and cranny of this campus, this transformation, campus-wide transformation, will be encapsulated with an image of our basketball arena jam-packed with college students worshiping the Lord week after week after week. And corollary with this dream of a college students worshiping Jesus on a weekly basis at the basketball arena is a dream that there will be an Ohio State grad impacting every country, every people group of the world, and that the gospel will go from here, from this little place called The Ohio State University, to the ends of the earth. And towards that end, year after year, we position ourselves as a movement to take baby steps to be in a place that God could entrust us with that dream, and will use us to see that dream become a reality. And this has been a phenomenal year of ministry. We came out of the gates last fall and we saw one of the largest group of freshmen unpack their bags in our movement. We had the largest fall getaway we've ever had. We had small groups popping up all across campus, and the movements thriving not just at The Ohio State University, but also at Columbus State and Central State University. And then COVID-19 hit. And suddenly we entered into this unknown, unpredictable, uncharted territory of Zoom discipleship appointments and Facebook Live weekly meetings and online outreaches. And even though moments like this could be challenging and stretching, we are convinced that obstacles become opportunities for the gospel, because we're convinced that the Proverbs 19:21 is correct when it says, "Many are the plans in person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." God never says oops, and none of this is catching him by surprise. And COVID-19 will never stop the spread of the gospel. And towards an end, we are relying on the words of Charles Spurgeon, who said, "God is too good to be unkind, too wise to be mistaken. When you cannot trace his hand, you can trust his heart." We are marching forward with an understanding that God's heart for our campus has not changed. God's heart for students at Ohio State hasn't changed. God's heart for his world has not changed. And towards that end, we're committed to use our creativity and wisdom and discernment of how to come up with the new ways of reaching students with the gospel as we head into one of the most challenging and yet one of the most exciting years of ministry that lies ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. John Picking. I teach biology at Ohio State. As you can see, this is my teaching lab. And so I'm honored to have been asked to talk about the Thompson Institute. I first knew of Aaron Badenhop when I was a freshman participating in Cru at Ohio State. I can't overstate the impact that Cru has had on my life. So I was blessed to grow up in the church, but not until Cru did I learn about orienting my life towards the mission of sharing the gospel. And Cru is incredibly effective at training student leaders to do that, to have conversations with college freshmen who are at a point in their lives when they're most receptive to that type of conversation. And even I think that experience sort of is what gave me the passion for teaching young undergraduate students, which I currently do. But if there was one thing that was a little bit of a challenge, it was the fact that so many of our great role models are all full-time missionaries. So anyone entering a profession had to figure out what it would look like to apply that training to our field. And so that's part of why I was so excited to hear about the Thompson Institute when I got to catch up with Aaron as a graduate student. At the time, I didn't really have much to offer. I was buried in work, behind, but when I finally did defend my dissertation and got to start teaching again, I reached out to Aaron immediately. What can I do? How can I get involved? And I guess this mythical time where I would have so much free time and space is, I realized that's sort of not reality, but what's been humbling and incredible to see is that God will use what I have. So just to be able to give my testimony at a real life meeting or put my face and email on the Thompson Institute website has been so meaningful to students. I've heard from Aaron, who has talked to students, and I've heard from my own former students that I've taught that was very meaningful to them. So I'm just excited to see where this goes next. And I'm thankful for Aaron and the Thompson Institute for providing a structure and, encouraging people in my position.
Hi, my name's Daniel Saldervosh, and I'm about to enter my 4th year here at The Ohio State University. Growing up, I placed a lot of my identity into gymnastics. Ever since I was a little kid, I've had this dream of pursuing a roster spot at a Division I school like Ohio State. But little did I know that after my first 2 years here, I'd actually end up getting cut from the roster 2 consecutive times for reasons beyond my control. However, it was during this time of pain that I realized that God was trying to get my attention, and somehow I got plugged into Cru. It was here that I realized that students my age were taking their faith seriously. I mean, the most important part about them was that they loved Jesus, and this was a radically new idea to me, because in the past I'd tried to combat my brokenness by doing things, but I didn't really feel anything from that, and so I knew that this wasn't indicative of a true relationship with God. And so along came our fall retreat, and it was during that weekend that God grabbed my heart and showed me just how much He wanted me despite all of the brokenness that I brought to the table. And so that weekend, I made the decision to follow Christ without abandon, and since then, nothing's been the same. Cru's provided so many avenues for ministry for me, including a trip to Slovenia last summer, where I had a conversation with a Slovene student that saw him give his life to Christ at the end of the conversation. And there's been so many other ways that Cru's provided opportunities to minister to other students on campus that I couldn't do the things I do today without the resources that they have to offer. But ultimately, my story ends with this: my identity lies in Jesus Christ and in no one else.
Hi, my name is Susan Manchester, and when I started as a freshman at Ohio State, I was filled with excitement. I couldn't wait to live in a new place, meet new people, and for me, starting with Cru was a no-brainer. I had several family members who had been involved with Cru before, and I knew that it was a really great organization that I wanted to be a part of. I loved going to the Bible studies in the dorms and attending real life on Thursday nights. And at the end of my freshman year, I decided to go on a summer mission with Cru, and it was there that my faith was really transformed. I had grown up knowing God and knowing a lot about God, but it wasn't until that summer that I realized there was a lot I knew about God, but maybe didn't actually believe. I knew that God loved me, but I didn't really believe that to the extent that it was true. That summer, my faith was really transformed, and I came to realize that loving God, loving Jesus, isn't just something that is part of me. It's not just something that I say I'm about. It's actually a lifestyle. Later on in college, I took an internship in Washington, D.C. for a member of Congress, and I was, for the first time perhaps, in an environment where I was around people with a lot of different perspectives on religion and spirituality, and I felt that my time with Cru and really understanding what it means to love Jesus as a lifestyle had prepared me for that moment. You know, Cru taught me and showed me that every time we encounter someone, whether it's someone that we're talking to on a daily basis or a stranger on the street, it's an opportunity to show them the love of Christ. And that is something that I really took to heart and really saw firsthand how important it is to bring the love of Jesus into every environment. Later on, after I graduated, I ended up doing a short-term mission with Cru to Venezuela, and it was there that I was entrusted with a leadership position, and that really meant a lot to me. I was really challenged in my leadership abilities, and I can confidently say that those challenges have prepared me for the next steps in my career and life. I later returned to Washington and worked full-time for a member of Congress for about 5 years, and then moved back home to Ohio, and I'm now a state representative for the state of Ohio. I really feel that loving Jesus as a lifestyle is something that I've carried with me, and I'm thankful for my time with Cru for just showing me how important that is. Again, I feel that that's something that can be brought to every sector, and government is certainly no exception. So thank you to all the folks involved with Cru, and for the students that I worked with, for the staff that I worked with. I am certain that my faith is where it is today because of my time there.
Good evening. My name is Brian McAllister, and I am responsible for giving direction to the Cru ministries in Ohio, Western Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. Prior to that, I was the director of Cru at Ohio University for 23 years. I'm in my 34th year of ministry with Cru, and I've been closely acquainted with the Ohio State ministry since 1987. In my brief time with you tonight, I hope to address three things. And the first thing that I want to say is that the college campuses of today are strategic. Dr. Charles Malik, former Secretary General of the United Nations, said this. He said, "The university is the clear-cut fulcrum with which to move the world. More potently than by any other means, change the university and you change the world." Dr. Bill Bright in 1951 started Campus Crusade for Christ and chose as our vision, reach the campus for Christ today, reach the world for Christ tomorrow. Both of these men saw something simple yet profound about college students. They shape the future. Today's college students will be our teachers, our doctors, our lawyers, our politicians, our pastors, our laborers, and our leaders. What gets poured into them now will be poured out upon our world and our culture in the decades to come. And that is where I want to share with you some great news. You see, we are connecting virtually tonight to share with you that there is an authentic community of young men and women who are seeking to bring the love and message of Jesus to every student at Ohio State University and many of the surrounding campuses in Central Ohio. This Cru movement of young men, for example, is reaching students in the residence halls. In fact, within a 2 to 3 year cycle, every student that lives on campus gets an opportunity to hear about Jesus. They're reaching students off campus. In fact, they're reaching Greek students in the fraternities and sororities. This ministry is reaching multiple campuses. They're going to Findlay, to Columbus State, and to Central State, as well as to the Ohio State University. And these staff and students are going to the ends of the earth, to every part of our culture, to tell people about Jesus. They're sending graduates to Brazil and Slovenia. They're sending students into pastoral counseling and ministry. They're sending graduates into business, education, medicine, and every aspect of our culture and world. And they have a dynamic and growing ministry to faculty and to grad students at Ohio State. Honestly, I think if we gave them absolutely nothing tonight, this group of men and women would charge hell with a squirt gun. Friends, God is doing wondrous things here in the lives of young people in Columbus, and he's using this ministry to fill that gaping hole in the hearts of this generation. A second thing I'd like to do is to share with you two stories of changed lives, because every life matters. And these two stories represent the lives of thousands of students who have been connected to this Cru ministry over the years. The first story is about a young man by the name of Brian Nolan. Brian grew up in a religious family, but by the time he got to Ohio State, he called himself a staunch atheist. When several of his friends got involved with Cru and invited him to hang out with his new friends, he realized that in order to really debate these folks, he would have to do some reading and learning. So he began to read and study Christianity. He read the Bible and devoured books by famous Christian apologists and the new atheists as well. He went to Bible study every week just to debate Christians. And he hung out with these Cru guys who presented a very different picture of Christianity from what he had grown up experiencing. And finally, 6 months later, Brian made the decision to give his life to Jesus. Upon graduating, Brian followed a few of his friends and moved overseas to Slovenia to work with Cru there. They spent a year planning a Cru movement in the city of Ljubljana on a campus of more than 50,000 students in Slovenia. He saw students go from being atheists to committed Christian, and he was hooked. And now 10 years later, Brian Nolan is still serving in Slovenia with Cru. Brian told me recently in an email, he said, "I love investing in the lives of students and seeing them launched out to impact their friends, their family, their classmates, and their country." The second story I'd like to share is brief, but very personal. In 1986, my wife Jenny from small town Upper Sandusky, Ohio, went to Ohio State. She easily got swept up in the tide of incoming students and her faith took a back seat. Her sophomore year, she came to her senses and through Cru committed her life to Christ. And now 34 years later, she is still walking with Jesus. She is raising our 6 children to love and fear God. And she has a remarkable character that was in large part forged during her 3 years of involvement as a student in Cru at Ohio State. As well, as an aside, my son and daughter-in-law graduated from Ohio State, and they were also student leaders in Cru during their time there. So I thank God for this ministry. It has been vital in shaping my own life over the last 34 years because of your investment in my wife, my son, and my daughter-in-law. And that brings me to my final point I want to say. I want to invite you to partner with the staff and students of Cru here at The Ohio State University. I cannot imagine a better place for you to invest your hard-earned money. I know Bacho, and I know Laura and their team. I see the sacrifices that they make, the countless hours, the faith, the sweat, the labor of love that they and their staff and students invest as they pour out their lives. I cannot imagine better people in which to invest. I cannot imagine a better strategy in which you can invest. Every year, think about this, every year God sends some of Ohio's best and brightest, in fact, the nation and the world's best and brightest to the doorstep, to your doorstep there in Columbus in Central Ohio. And the question is, how will we respond? How will you respond? How will the Christian community there in Columbus respond? No one is getting rich here tonight. Every blessing you pour out is a tool in the hands of staff and students who will invest it in others. I invite you to be a blessing to them so that they in turn can be a blessing to the world, so that young men and women can be changed, so that lives and families can be transformed, so that they can go to every part of culture and every part of the world to tell lost people about a God who loves them and sent his son, Jesus, to die for them. Let's join together tonight to be an avenue of God's rich blessing. Thank you.
Well, friends, as I think about the needs that our movement has as we head into this coming year, I'm thinking of William Carey, the great missionary in India. As he was about to embark in the unknown world of India, he was surrounded by a small group of friends. And in that community of friends, he said words that are now famous when he said, "Well, I'm willing to go down the well if you will hold the ropes." And in the same way as a movement, we're committed to bring the gospel to Ohio State University this coming year. But we want to invite you to hold the ropes. And there's several ways that you can hold the ropes as we descend with the gospel. First, we covet your prayers. So we would love for you to sign up for our occasional updates. Second, you can invest financially tonight. You can make if you're unable to give right now, you can make a faith promise to give in the course of the year. You can also give monthly, and you can choose the start date as you will. Or you can do any kind of a combination of these partnerships. And finally, you can also partner with us by sharing the link to this live stream with others that you might think would be encouraged to hear about what God's doing at Ohio State and would be interested in partnering with us. Right now, I would encourage you to pause this live stream and to take a couple minutes and pray to fill out this Google form that's in the comment section and to invest generously in the lives of students at The Ohio State University. And then after you have filled out that Google form, you can come back and you can enjoy worship with our student-led worship band, and I know you're going to love it. Thank you again for partnering with us, and we cannot wait to see what God does as we march towards the shot dream and as we trust God to see the lost students at Ohio State, Columbus State, and Central State be transformed into Christ-centered laborers. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night.
beautiful